All right, let's dive into one of the most ambitious works of literature ever written, Ovid's Metamorphoses. This is an epic poem that, and I'm not kidding, tries to tell the story of, well, pretty much everything.
I mean, think about it for a second. How do you tell the entire history of the world when the rules don't apply? When gods can become animals and people can literally turn into trees? Before Ovid came along, the world of ancient myth was just this beautiful, chaotic jumble of fantastic stories, but they didn't really connect. It was a total mess. You had gods, mortals, and monsters changing shape all over the place. A king who ticks off the gods becomes a wolf. A nymph trying to get away from a god becomes a laurel tree. These amazing stories were everywhere, but there was no single thread holding them all together. But then, right around 8 AD, a Roman poet comes along, looks at all this wonderful chaos, and has this just brilliant idea.
That poet, of course, was Ovid. And he didn't just want to collect these stories, like some kind of anthology. No, his idea was way, way bigger. He wanted to find a way to link every major myth into one single flowing story.
And the key, the one powerful theme that was going to tie it all together, was this one word: metamorphosis. Transformation. Ovid saw constant change as the one true principle of the universe. Nothing ever really dies, it just becomes something new. And he tells you his plan right at the start. These are some of the poem's very first lines. He's basically saying, hey, listen up. I'm going to tell you the entire history of the world from the dawn of time to right now, and I'm going to do it by telling you stories about things changing form. What an ambition! And man, what a tour it is. We're talking about over 250 myths seamlessly connected across 15 books. So how in the world did he pull it off? Let's take a look.
Well, he starts with the biggest transformation of them all, the creation of the universe. He describes how the world begins as this rude and undigested mass, this jumble called chaos, and then transforms into the ordered world we know, with earth and sea and sky. That's the ultimate metamorphosis right there. So after creating the cosmos, Ovid kind of zooms in on us, on humanity. He chronicles our own transformation through 4 distinct ages, starting with the perfect, innocent golden age and slowly decaying all the way down to a corrupt and violent iron age. It's a pretty powerful story of change over time.
Then the stories get even more personal, focusing on these incredibly dramatic run-ins between gods and mortals. And a lot of the time, transformation is this desperate, last-ditch effort. It's the only way to escape an impossible situation, like what Daphne does to get away from Apollo. But it's not always an escape, right? Sometimes metamorphosis is a punishment. And this story is a brilliant warning about hubris, that's excessive pride. Arachne thought her weaving was better than a goddess's. Her punishment wasn't death, it was being turned into a spider, forced to weave forever as a living reminder of her mistake.
And then you get these stories that have this incredible psychological depth. The tale of Narcissus, this is where we get the word narcissism, right? It's not just some weird old story, it's a really profound look at how self-obsession can completely destroy you. Let's just break this one down for a second. The story of Narcissus becomes this really powerful lesson about the fatal effects of self-love. His transformation isn't random, it's the perfect physical manifestation of his internal flaw. He's so wrapped up in himself he can't connect with the world, and so he becomes a flower, rooted to one spot, only able to look at his own reflection. So why are we still talking about this? It's a 2,000-year-old poem filled with some pretty fantastical stories. Why does it still matter so much? Well, here's the thing. Because Ovid's collection was so complete, so compelling, and so beautifully written, it basically became the primary source for all these myths. For centuries, if you were a writer or an artist in the Western world and you wanted to know about the Greek and Roman gods, this was your go-to book. It was the source code. And you can just trace its incredible journey through history. Ovid finishes it and is promptly exiled. For hundreds of years in the Middle Ages, monks are carefully copying it, and then, bam! The Renaissance hits, and it becomes something like a Bible for painters and poets. Guys like Titian, Bernini, and even Shakespeare were just drawing story after story from its pages. Its influence is just staggering. Which all leads to this final, really interesting question. In a world like ours, a world of constant, non-stop change, what kind of stories are the ones that actually last? Ovid's masterpiece seems to suggest an answer. The stories that endure are the ones that capture the very nature of change itself. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only.